Good day everyone. My name is Judy Santos, grade 12 from St. Ignatius class. Ngayon, i-discuss ko sa inyo ang mga diniscuss ni Sir na performance task namin. Ano nga ba ang scientific notation? Scientific notation is a convenient and widely used method of expressing large and small numbers. Any quantity may be expressed on the form of n times 10 raised to n, where n is any number between 1 to 10. N is the appropriate power of 10. Problema ni Judy 1.1. Number 1. Example. The speed of electricity is approximately 900 million meter per second. Itong scientific notation, mag-move lang kayo ng point. Katulad ng 900 million meter per second. At para maging scientific notation ito, mag-move lang tayo ng point. Magsisimula tayo sa right, papuntang left. Kung ilan ng 0, doon din muna natin i-move ang point. Kaya 8 beses tayo mag-move. At magiging 9 times 10 raised to 8 meter per second. Huwag nating kakalimutan ang unit of measurement. Bakit naging ganito ang scientific notation? Simple lang ito mga ka-number. Ang 900 million meter per second ay kayang paliitin sa pamamagitan ng scientific notation. Number 2 naman tayo. The mass of a cotton is approximately 0.00000057 kilogram. Ngayon, sa given na ito, nasa kaliwa ang point, kaya ilalagay natin papuntang kanan. At ang magiging pinaka-lowest term niya ay 5.7 times 10 raised to negative 7 kilogram. Dahil nagsimula tayo sa kaliwa papuntang kanan. Example number 3. The speed of a car is approximately 67 billion meter per second. Ang 67 billion meter per second ay may siyam na zero, kaya magiging 67 times 10 raised to 9 meter per second. Unit conversion. Magko-convert naman tayo. The simplest way to convert one unit to another is to form a conversion ratio equal to 1 with the desired unit on the numerator and the unit to be converted at the denominator. The original quantity is multiplied by this conversion ratio. Units may be multiplied or divided just like any ordinary algebraic factors. Dito naman, problema ni Judy 1.2 ay magko-convert tayo, which is A. 147 km to meters and B. 34 grams to kilograms. Express your answers in scientific notation. The first solution is A. The given 147 km na naging 147 km multiplied by 1,000 meter over 1 km or simply as 147 times 1,000 meter is equal to 147,000. Ilan ang zero ng 147,000? Tatlo. Kaya magiging 147 multiplied by 10 raised to 3 meter ang scientific notation niya. Pero may mas liliit pa nito gaya na lamang ng 14.7 multiplied by 10 raised to 4 meter. Dahil naglipat tayo ng tuldok ng isang beses, magdagdag din tayo ng isa sa power ng 10. Letter B. The given 34 grams is equal to 34 grams multiplied by 1 kilogram over 1,000 grams is equal to 0.034 kilograms. At gagawin na nating scientific notation na 34 multiplied by 10 raised to negative 3 kilogram or simply as 3.4 multiplied by 10 raised to negative 2 kilogram. Ang power ng 10 ay negative dahil naglipat tayo mula sa kaliwa at gawin itong whole number. Tandaan na mas malaki ang negative 2 kaysa sa negative 3, kaya ang solusyon ay nagdagdag tayo ng isa sa negative 3 at para klaruhin ito, negative 3 plus 1 is equal to negative 2. Ganoon din ang mga sumunod na halimbawa nito. Kaya dako na tayo sa susunod na pag-uusapan natin para hindi tayo matagalan sa oras na inilaan para sa atin. Variance. Another way to estimate errors from multiple measurements of a physical quantity is to determine the variance of the set of measurements. The variance measures the square deviation of each other in the set from the mean. The variance of a set of measurements is calculated step by step as follows. 1. Take the mean of the set of measurements. Second, take the deviation of each measurement from the mean. Third, square each deviation. Fourth, get the sum of the squares of each deviation. And fifth, divide the sum of the squares by the number of measurements. A variance of 0 means that all measurements are identical. A small variance indicates that the values are close to one another, which means they are precise. The square root of the variance is the standard deviation. It is a measure of how diverse of spread out are a set of measurements from their average. A small standard deviation means that the measurements are very diverse. The measurement x of a physical quantity in a set of measurements is usually reported as x is equals to mean plus negative standard deviation, where mean is the mean of the set of measurements and the standard deviation is the standard deviation of the measurement. Another problema ni Judy 1.3. During the food preparation in kitchen room, the 4 family members was asked to measure using measuring spoons to calculate based on this measurement how much they should add each ingredient. The family members came up with the following measurements: 7.5 ml, 5 ml, 2.5 ml, and 1.25 ml. Determine the mean, variance, standard deviation, and measured they should add each ingredient. Pwede nating gamitin ang ating scientific calculator para mas sigurado ang ating sagot at para mas mapadali ito. Ang ating solution ay uunahin muna natin sa letter A, which is the mean. Pagsama-samahin lang natin ang mga given measurement ng measuring spoons, ito ang 7.5 plus 5 plus 2.5 plus 1.25. Tsaka natin i-divide sa 4 para makuha natin ang 4.06 ml. Pagkatapos natin makuha ito ay isunod naman natin ang variance. Para masagutan natin ito, kailangan natin isa-isahin ang bawat sukat para ibawas sa nakuha nating mean at i-square ito tsaka pagsasamahin lahat ng nakuha at i-divide ulit sa 4 dahil ito ang bilang ng given. Hanggang nakuha natin ang 5.76 ml square. Kopyahin lang natin ng square doon sa formula. Ang standard deviation naman ay ito ang i-square natin ang ating sagot sa letter B, variance. Pero mas mainam na isulat din ang solusyon kung paano ito kuhanin. At ito na ang naging 2.4 ml. Wala na ang square dahil natanggal na ito sa pamamagitan ng pag-cancel sa square at square root. So the answer for letter D that stands for the measured they should add each ingredient is 4.06 positive or negative 2.4 ml. Ganoon din ang the Jessel loves to wander around the beautiful scenery in Claveria. She thought of going to Claveria Coastal Paradise of the North with a distance of 7.6 km. Nagsabaran Footbridge 6.7 km. Baksay Catarawan Sur Coconut River 5.3 km. San Antonio Bridge 3.5 km. And Claveria Boulevard 2.9 km. Determine the mean, variance, standard deviation, and distance period around the Claveria. Pagsasamahin lang ang given distance tsaka i-divide kung ilan kadami ang pinuntahang lugar na ito na ay magiging 5.2 km. Tsaka isa-isahing bawasan ang mga pinuntahan niya kung gaano kalayo at i-square ang iyong sagot tsaka i-divide ulit sa 5 na bilang ng mga pinuntahan niya. Kaya makukuha natin ang 3.24 km square tsaka i-square root natin na ito na ay magiging 1.8 km. So the distance period that she traveled around in Claveria is 5.2 positive negative 1.8 km. Pare-pareho lang din ang mga ito kaya sa susunod na tayo dumako. Parallelogram method. The steps in determining the resultant of two vectors using the parallelogram method. Two vectors A and B are used for this analysis. First, using a suitable scale, draw the arrows representing the vectors from a common point, A. Construct a parallelogram using the two vectors as sides B. Draw the diagonal of the parallelogram from the common point. This represents the resultant R, C. Measure the length of the arrow representing the resultant, and from the scale used, determine its magnitude. Determine the direction of the resultant vector using a protractor. Problema na naman ni Judy 1.4. Two forces A and B are acting on an object. A is 6 Newton, directed north, and B is 8 Newton, 40 degrees north of east. Find the resultant force acting on the object using the parallelogram method. Solution. Using the scale of 0.5 cm, 1 Newton. The parallelogram using forces A and B as sides as known in the figure. Using a ruler, the length of the arrow representing the magnitude of the resultant R is found to be 7.5 cm. Kaya, naging 7.5 cm na siya. Using a protractor, the angle that R makes with the horizontal is approximately 58 degrees. Yun yung na-total ko or yun yung nakuhang degrees dun sa protractor na ginawa kong graph. Therefore, R is 7.5 Newton, 58 degrees north of east. Two forces A and B are acting on an object. A is 4 Newton directed south and B is 6 Newton 30 degrees south of east. Find the resultant force acting on the object using the parallelogram method. Solution. Using the scale of 0.5 cm is equal to 1 Newton. The parallelogram using forces A and B as size is drawn as known in the figure. Using a ruler, the length of the arrow representing the magnitude of the resultant R is found to be 4.7 cm. 4.7 cm na siya. Using a protractor, the angle that R makes with the horizontal is approximately 39 degrees. Kaya naging 39 degrees. Therefore, R is 4.7 Newton 39 degrees south of east. South of east kasi doon papunta yung direction. Two forces A and B are acting on an object. A is 7.0 Newton, directed north, and B is 10.0 Newton, 20 degrees north of west. Find the resultant force acting on an object using the parallelogram method. Solution. Using the scale of 0.5 cm is equal to 1 Newton again, the parallelogram using forces A and B as sides is drawn as known in the figure. Using a ruler, the length of the arrow representing the magnitude of the resultant R is found to be 7.4 cm. Using a protractor, the angle that R makes with the horizontal approximately 47 degrees. Therefore, R is 7.4 Newton, 47 degrees north of west. Polygon method. The polygon method is otherwise known as the tip-to-tail method. This method is more convenient than the parallelogram method when more than two vectors are to be added graphically. The following are steps to be followed using the polygon method. First, represent each vector quantity by an arrow drawn to scale. Second, starting from the origin, draw the first vector on the rectangle or rectangular coordinate system, accounting properly its direction. Third, connect the tail of the second vector to the head of the first vector. Then, connect the tail of the third vector to the head of the second vector. You may continue drawing the vectors head to tail until you draw the last vector to be added. Fourth, the resultant will close the figure formed by connecting the vectors. This resultant is drawn from the tail of the first vector to the head of the last vector. Fifth, measure the length of the arrow representing the resultant. Determine the magnitude of the resultant from the scale used. 6. Use the protractor to determine the direction of the resultant. If there are only two vectors to be added, the polygon that will be formed is a triangle. In this case, the polygon method is otherwise known as the triangle method. Di matapos-tapos na problema ni Judy 1.5. Hi! Today is your assessment. You are used to walking around while reviewing so that it is easier to remember what you are reading. You walk 3 meters south and 9 meters east. Then you decided to walk farther and go outside 4 meters southeast and 2 meter west. How far are you now from your starting and in what direction? Would you have arrived at the same spot had you taken these steps in this order? 9 meter east, 4 meters southeast, 3 meters south, and 2 meter west. Use the polygon method to determine your answer. Solution. Let A is equal to 3 meter south, B is equal to 9 meter east, C is equal to 4 meters southeast, and D is equal to 2 meter west. In the example provided, shows that polygon formed by adding the displacements in the order of A plus B plus C plus D. In B, the displacements are added in the order of B plus C plus A plus D. Changing the order of adding displacements does not affect the resultant. This is a consequence of commutativity of vectors when added together. From the scale used, width of one square in a graphing paper is equal to 1 meter. The resultant is approximately 3.8 meter and its direction is approximately 67 degrees south of east. You go to the city. You are close to your location and you use the GPS to make it easier to trace. With a distance of 4 km south and 8 km east, then you decide to walk farther and go outside 2 km southwest and 5 km west. How far are we How far are you now from your starting and in what direction? Would you have arrived at the same spot had you taken these steps in order? 8 meter east, 2 km southwest, 4 km south, 5 km west. Use the polygon method to determine your answer. Solution. Let A stands for 4 km south, B stands for 8 km east, C stands for 2 km southwest, and D stands for 5 km west. In the example provided, A shows the polygon formed by adding the displacements in the order of A plus B plus C plus D. In B, the displacements are added in the order of B plus C plus A plus D. Changing the order of adding displacements does not affect the resultant. This is a consequence of commutativity of vectors when added together. From the scale used, width of one square in a graphing paper is equal to 1 km. The resultant is approximately 3 meter and its direction is approximately 80 degrees south of east. You went around the market to buy ingredients for the dish to be cooked. You walked 7 meters south and 9 meters east. Then you decided to walk farther and go outside 3 meters southwest and 4 meters west. How far are you now from your starting and in what location? Would you have arrived at the same spot had you taken these steps in order? 9 meters east, 3 meters southwest, 7 meters south, 4 meters west. Use the polygon method to determine your answer. Solution. Let A stands for 7 meters south, B stands for 9 meters east, C stands for 3 meters southwest, and D stands for 4 meters west. In the example provided, shows the polygon formed by adding the displacements in order of A, B, C, D. In B, the displacements are added in the order of B, C, A, D. Changing the order of adding displacements does not affect the resultant. This is a consequence of commutativity of vectors when added together. From the scale used, width of one square in a graphing paper is equivalent to 1 meter. The resultant is approximately 5 meter and its direction is approximately 79 degrees south of east. Triangle method. Law of sines and cosines will be applied in this method. In the analytical method, the magnitude and direction of the resultant vector will be determined by computation instead of combination of drawings and measurements. Using the law of cosines. Cosine law is used in two cases, SAS and SSS. When we are given all three sides, no angle, and are looking for an angle. When we are given two sides and a contained angle, are looking for the side length that corresponds to the given angle. The cosine rule. A square is equal to B square plus C square minus 2BC cos A. B square is equal to A square plus C square minus 2AC cos B. C square is equal to A square plus B square minus 2AB cos C. Using the law of sines, study the triangle ABC shown below. Let B stands for the angle at B. Let C stands for the angle at C, and so on. Also, let B is equal to AC, A is equal to BC, and C is equal to AB. The sine rule. A over sin A is equal to B over sin B is equal to C over sin C. Component method. The component method is generally used when more than two vectors are to be added. The steps involved in adding vectors using the component method are as follows. First, resolve the given vectors into its horizontal and vertical component. Second, get the algebraic sum of all the horizontal components. Then, get algebraic sum of all the vertical components. These sums represented the horizontal component and the vertical component of the resultant respectively. Third, Since the vertical and horizontal components are perpendicular to each other, the magnitude of the resultant may be calculated using the Pythagorean theorem. From the sines of the sum of the horizontal components and the vertical components determine the quadrant where the resultant is. This will indicate the direction of the resultant. Fourth, solve for the angle. Note, means that absolute value of the sum of the vectors along the y-axis divided by the sum of the vectors along the x-axis. Fish swims 6 meter, 60 degrees north of east, 4 meter east, 7.20 meter, 50 degrees south of west, and 9.50 meters south before stopping for rest break. Find its resultant displacements from where it started. Solution. Tabulate the horizontal and vertical components of each vector. Solving this for the magnitude of the resultant. Solving this for the direction of the resultant. Since this is positive and this is negative, the resultant must be in the fourth quadrant. Hence, the direction must be 73 degrees south of east. Therefore, this is 8.20 meter, 70 degrees Celsius south of east. Berto paints 5 meter, 30 degrees north of west, 4 meter north, 6.30 meter, 20 degrees south of east, and 8.40 meter west before stopping for snack break. Find his resultant displacement from where he started. Solution. Tabulate the horizontal and vertical components of each vector. Solving this for the magnitude of the resultant. Solving this for the direction of the resultant. Since this is positive and this is negative, the resultant must be in the fourth quadrant. Hence, the direction must be 73 degrees south of east. Therefore, this is 8.40 meter, 73 degrees south of east. Hasmin jumps 3 meter 40 degrees north of west, 5 meter north, 7.30 meter 30 degrees south of east, and 8.20 meter west before stopping for snack break. Find her resultant displacement from where she started. Solution: tabulate the horizontal and vertical components of each vector. Solving for this magnitude of the resultant. Solving this for the direction of the resultant. Since this is positive and this is negative, the resultant must be in the fourth quadrant. Hence, the direction must be 80 degrees south of east. Therefore, this is 5.4 meter, 80 degrees south of east. That's all. Thank you.